Hey, how you guys living? I just wanted to make sure you guys can hear me. Can you hear me? If you could hit that chat, just type yes or no. I am trying to operate through these headphones, so I want to make sure that you guys can hear everything I'm saying, because we got some very interesting things to discuss this week, my friends. Can you all hear me? Just hit the comments with a yes or no so that I know. Any help appreciated. Oh, you can hear me loud and clear. Perfect. Beautiful. I was worried with the headphones that it would not work. So, we have a couple of very important things to discuss. We are going to be diving into whether or not, diving into the research really, that tells us whether or not a recession is coming. And if so, what do we do? How do we make money? How do we trade it? We're going to be looking at some of the crypto altcoins that have absolutely exploded, like PEPE, that has yielded. I saw a trader the other day on a good friend of mine's Wall Street Bets page. He was talking about $3,000 into 3 million on one trade. Unbelievable. Definitely a disclaimer. Results not typical, but interesting enough to look at, important enough to pay attention to because it's happening. Never before, I think this is unprecedented to have this much opportunity in the market to make this kind of money, whether it's with options, crypto, or otherwise. So we're going to do what we always do. We're going to go through the SPY. We're going to chart our levels. It is playing out exactly as anticipated. If you look at the chart right next to me, you can see it right here. We talked about that bounce off 403. We're going to zoom in a little closer so you guys get a better view. We talked about this bounce right here around 403. You can see my cursor right here. We talked about this bounce and why this support was so important. It held up perfectly since then. We've had gap up. This is the, I believe we're on the hourly chart. Nope, that's a 1 minute. Ew. There we go. Same thing, but way better. So we got the hourly chart here. We talked about this 403.50, 403.60 point being essential and critical, you guys. And look, it held up and boom, we pushed back up to 415.93. I don't have my Weeble signed in here, so we don't have our resistance line, but it's trending right across the top here and we're about to hit it. We're going to remap that out just so you guys have a good idea of exactly what to expect. Dialing back in on just past price action is important because we want to make sure that we're understanding the flow of price as we move through time in our trades, because that is a very important element here. We've got a nice little ascending guy popping here. We had our resistance. We're going to go ahead and map this out. Weeble, I don't care about these features. Go away. Thank you. I like using the desktop because it's got that old school touch. I think this was basically this was the neckline for the head and shoulders. Again, remember we talked about that left shoulder here. We had the head and then we had the right shoulder here. With this being our springboard point, we nailed it. Absolutely nailed it. This was it. Boom, stayed above, tested the trend line, and now it's back up. So again, as we discussed last week, that was our bull scenario. We absolutely nailed it, you guys. I hope you made some money. If you did, please light up this chat and let me know if you made some money on the SPY this week, because we absolutely nailed the analysis. We nailed the trades and we set ourselves up for a wonderful success in the market, and that's exactly what we're going to do this week. My goal here, as always, is to make sure that you guys are following along with exactly what I'm doing, exactly how I do it, so that you have a clear understanding of what the plan is going forward, and you're never left without a paddle. I think the worst thing for any new trader is to sit there wondering, shit, what am I supposed to do? Should I buy? Should I hold? Should I sell? Should I wait? I don't want you to have to ask those questions, and that's exactly why we're going to answer them all for you right now. Boom, snowflake, there it is, baby. That's a lifetimer right there. That's an OG. Spot paid me well. Get some of that. That's a good taste. I like that on you. I also like that you have a slug and Crocs as your picture. Never before have I understood what it was until right now. I've seen it up close, but I respect it and I love it. If you're new here, please drop us a comment in the chat. We want to make sure that we are helping you as much as we possibly can. That's the goal here, is to educate and empower. If we're not empowering you with good information, then you're not going to make better decisions that are going to change your life. Because at the end of the day, money is going to rule you whether you like it or not. Money is the center of most things in Western culture. So all I can do is I can map out exactly what you need to do with your money to make this make sense, to make this a productive hour of your life, so that you know exactly what you're going to do with the next week. And then after that, you'll have more money. And then guess what? Next Sunday, we'll go through exactly what you do with the next week. You're going to compound that money until you're pulling in a 4 or 5% yield a year on a $100,000 account. That's my goal here for you guys, is to get you into that. I guess I hate the term, but wealth mindset. And it's important because the things that we've been taught about money our whole lives are nonsense. Save, just save, go work. Forget trading your hours for dollars. It's not where the action is. Not saying quit your job. Do not do that. Keep your job. Spend those couple hours outside your job mastering this craft so that you're stacking another 500 here, another 1,000 here, another 2,000 here. until you got your full-time income stream, and then you've got this money coming in. When this money becomes great enough, it will become your income stream you need the most. It'll become the income stream you rely on. I'm going to show you how to do that specifically with options trading, specifically with small cap trading. But most importantly, we're going to talk through the emotional discipline required to not piss it all away, because there are a lot of people that know how to trade and make money. There are very few people that know how to trade, make money, wash, rinse, repeat, and continue to do it. Big trades happen all the time. People get lucky all the time. But if you want to be sustainable, if you want to have wealth, true wealth, compounding gains year over year over year, stacking more money every year, I'm going to walk you through exactly how we do it. And you're going to understand it, because we're going to make it simple and easy to understand. That's the goal here. Again, I'll say this and shut up and we'll get into it. If what I'm doing and what I'm saying isn't empowering you to make better decisions for yourself because you got to do the work, I would quit. I would quit right now. Let me put slurp of this coffee. So again, we're looking at the 4-hour chart on the SPY. This really breaks it down for us in a really concise and easy to understand way. What we just discussed is how we've absolutely nailed this simple, wonderful setup. Inverted head and shoulders. There's the neckline. Boom. We're breaking above the neckline. Now our next resistance that is critical that we must break above is right here. We have to stay and sustain above, call it 416. Let's make this easy. Let's move that to 416. Just to make this easy to understand. Well, close enough. I guess we'll have to stretch it out a little bit to get 416. Good enough. So we're going to squeeze this back in so you guys can see it all. Let me ask you this, for those of you that have been with us before, what are you seeing right now on this chart as we look at it? What do we always talk about? What is one of the main focal points that make us so damn good at trading these options? I'm going to scroll over these little areas right here. You tell me what's happening here. What are we doing? What are we doing? Drop it in the comments. Let me hear. Let me see. Let's see how much you guys know. Let's see how much you've learned. And if you're new, watch this. If you see that they're learning something, then you know this is the place for you to be. If you've been trying to figure out options, you've been trying to figure out stocks, this is the last place you're ever going to have to go. It's the last house on the block, and you made it, baby. Congratulations. Oh, and if you're new, we're going to be giving away some free membership to some of our trading tools, so make sure you type new in the chat if you're new. There you go. Rogue Exotic Decimal. There you go, baby. Range bound. So what does that mean, range bound? Let's talk about that for a second. It means that we've identified these horizontal price ranges from low to high in which the SPY likes to trade and bounce off of, right? So if we know it likes to bounce off here and come down, bounce down here and go up, if we know that information, then we can make a much better decision to actually benefit ourselves in the trades coming up for the coming weeks. And we do know that to be true because we can see it on the chart, right? Past price action gives you an indication of what could happen. It doesn't tell you what is going to happen. It just tells you here are the boundaries. You need to create a thesis and a plan that fits within those boundaries. That is your highest probability. Like that's all trading is a game of odds, right? You take this trade because the odds are better than this trade. That's it. It's more about what you don't do than what you do. Over trading is the first thing that'll kill you. Not understanding these simple ranges will never. If you don't understand these simple ranges, it's going to be very difficult to have easy, straightforward 10 to 15% gainer trades. If you can nail this, you can find 2 or 3 trades every day that'll make you money. I'm not even kidding. That are making you money. I would argue that at a 1 to 1.5 ratio, you'll win over 70% of your trades if you follow these very, very simple strategies. That's all we're teaching here. Simple, easy to understand, so that you guys can follow along with it, especially if you're new. And Lyle said this last time, but once again, if you're new, make sure you comment new in the chat. We're going to be giving away a free membership to some of our tools, and I want to make sure that it goes to somebody who's never tried it before so that you can get integrated into the system, baby. So what we've got on the SPYs, we've got our low here, 348. That was back in November, October. Our most recent low is 380. That was back in March, early March. And then, sorry, the most recent low would be our support test just around 403.50 that we saw back on the end of April. Now, we talked about pushing up against the top of this range here on the SPY, and that we talked about how we were probably going to see a sell-off. We were talking 403.60 was our support. Boom, we nailed it. Absolutely crushed it. Puts paid a couple 100% here if you held them as a swing. If you bought calls here, again, we talked about support bounce off of 408.30. If you loaded up on those calls, again, we always talk about options trades that are not next day expiration. I'm not doing any of that personally. And I'm not going to walk you through that because in my opinion, if you have the skill and the expertise to do that, you're probably not going to be here. This is for those of you that don't sit there at a chart and stare at a chart all day, or maybe you do, but you don't want to. You want to take nice, easy trades that are going to take your $1,000 and turn it into 1,500 bucks or $2,000 or $3,000. So that's what we're going to do here. We talked about setting our expiration on this options contract. We talked about 417 as our strike price, if you guys recall. We talked about putting 4 weeks expiration on that thing. If you would have done that from 404, 405, right? Say you didn't even get the bottom, traded up and within $1 of the strike, you should have seen at least 100% return on that trade over just a couple of days. Absolute banger. So now the question is where does this buy go from here? And that's exactly what we're going to map out because we've got something very interesting happening here. For those of you that have been on the stream before, you remember me talking about this right here, this number right here. We're going to mark it and we're going to make it special because it's a very special line that we need to understand and we need to really map out. And the price that is indicated by this line is $430. So why is that important, you ask? Well, that's a great question. Let's see if anybody remembers. Why is $430 price point important? While I wait for you, I'm going to answer Chemo's question. Yes. Do you need a certain amount invested to trade options? I don't personally believe so. Is it easier with more money? Yes, if you know what you're doing. However, I have watched, I don't even know how many of our traders that are in our group, right, that follow these alerts, that use this trading system. I've seen a ton of them start with $200-$300, turn into $1,000, $2,000, $3,000. I always mention my friend Evan because he's the best story because he listened. He followed our 60-day PBU course, right? He paper traded that whole time, not real money. He mastered his craft. He found one strategy that worked for him. He took a $400 account to $7,000 in less than 2 months. And then guess what? He was having a baby, so he took that money out, restarted with about 600 bucks. He took that up to about $8,000. So he basically netted himself 15 grand in 5 months from $400 starting amount because he paper traded for about 60 days, no real money trades, no stress of that. He simply learned the simple strategies that we walk through. He understood the trading psychology and he mastered the discipline by just telling himself no. So I guess to answer your question, I don't think you do. I think if you have anything over $300-$400, you can absolutely do it. You just have to be disciplined. And if you follow what we teach you in our trading university course and you paper trade for 30 or 60 days, I would say 60 is best. It's a matter of, I could see you having a $500 account up to $1,000, which is doubling your account. Take a second to think about that. Most places you park your money promise you 6% a year at best. I'm saying there's a likelihood you could double your account without taking absorbent risk, as long as, very important, emboldened, as long as you follow those simple directives in PBU and you have a strategy that you follow, you use discipline to make sure you tell yourself no, and you execute on the trades. Done and done. You can do it. Evan did it. He turned 400 into $7,000. Then he took it out. He turned 600 into $8,000. Then he took it out. And now he just takes his lunch break when he gets to work at 8:30 in the morning. He trades the first 30 minutes of the day. He makes 150 to 200 bucks a trade. That's all he's looking to make. So he's basically added an extra 500 bucks a week to his income. So times 52, he's making a lot more this year, right? This is almost $2,000 a month. It's making almost 25 grand a year extra money with 30 minutes a day trading. I think you can absolutely do it. The link is scrolling across the bottom. I would definitely recommend jumping in because I've seen it happen a million times, and I know you can do it as long as you follow those things. So Jacob said, look at the gaps on 430. Yep. That's part of it. But come on, we talked about this, you guys. I know you know the answer here. Why is it? What is this 430? What is this point for us? What does it mean? What does this $430 mark mean? Why is it so? Why do I stress about it so much? Why do I talk about it so much? What do I say is going to happen at this price? Why do I think it's important? Let's hear your thoughts. The $430 mark on the SPY, what is it? I need somebody to answer me. What is that? What does that price stand for? What does it mean? Why do we care about it? Why do we care about that $430 price? Why is it so meaningful? Why am I still talking about it? Because it's important. So why is it important? Told you guys a million times. Let's hear it. Getting a lot of weird answers here that I personally love, but they don't really make So let's talk about that $430 price point and why it's so important. We all danced around it. You guys are right. Oh, okay, there you go, Justin. Damn. Oh, you can't hear me? Can you hear the audio now? Come on. Can you hear the audio now? Oh my God. So when I was off the camera, you didn't hear that whole thing. I was talking for a while. Well, cool. Justin Dam for the win. He's absolutely right. So this is a huge, huge pivot point for the SPY. Very important, very critical piece of the puzzle for us. Why? Because when we break above this point, we rip and in my opinion, we re-enter price discovery mode. So now what is price discovery mode? Basically means that the stock is attempting to find its new high or new low. I think this will be price discovery to the upside. Why? Because that 430 is critical. As you can see, every time we've interacted with it, we're going to get the drawing tool out so you guys can see exactly what I'm talking about. I guess we could do rectangles. Every time we interact with it, doesn't need to be red though. Every time we interact with this right here, let's stay in drawing mode. That's good. Every time we interact with this, as you can see what happens, or what has happened in the past. So if we look at this little box we drew right here, guys, so it breaks above 430, it rips. Breaks above support test 430, holds, it rips. And then as you can see here, we found our new high right here. Then again, support test, we pumped 460. Support test fell through. Okay, this is the beginning of the end, right? This is when we talked about how the SPY turned over and became bearish. When it broke through this 430, when it ripped through it, came down to as low as 415, 416, which is ironically where we are right now. Keep that in mind. It then had a dead cat bounce up to 460. We traded that on a short-term trade, and then boom, we hit the oblivion zone. We ripped down, and we found our new low, trending all the way down to 348. Two dead cat bounces, one and then two. Now we're here. So what do we do with that? Let's get rid of this. So what do we do with this information, guys? This is important here. It's important information for us to know. For anybody trading the SPY, or honestly anybody trading general markets at all, keep in mind the SPY is very tech heavy, and to be honest, I feel like with how many retail traders are now in the market, it guides the market. People look at the SPY and then they feel excited or they feel fearful. I think it's dictating a lot more than it once did. So it's very important to know this. I think for anybody trying to really have a crack at this and make good money doing this, you need to know this. So what we're expecting to happen here is to test this 430 mark again. Very pivotal occurrence that we need to watch very carefully, because should we, and we'll get the drawing tool back out so you guys can see it. Do they not have like a little deal where I can like boop, 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 make it look like the stock? Make it look like the stock chart, polyline. So as we test this, right, and we go up and then we test, this is our bull scenario, right? Long term, if we break this, we're going to come down, and this is probably the move that we're going to see. Oh, you suck. Sorry about that. That's stupid. I need to press enter. So as we consolidate, we test, and then we'll go probably here, and then we come back down, support test, before inevitably hitting that 460 mark, which I think is where we'll end up. That's our bull scenario, guys. That's what can happen over the long term to the bull side, right? So let's say we hit that point, we dill around a little bit, we maybe come back down, consolidate, but then we rip back up and we're heading for 460. It'll be a phenomenal trade. We can make a, that's where you get the 2, 3, 400%ers on the SPY option swings. So basically what we need right now is to understand exactly why that point is so important. And again, we discussed it, that the order flow dictates that this is a very important pivot point. The price action and price discovery that we experience here, very important pivot point. Significant volume inflow, right, from beginning of 2022, right in this range, very important. Means that this is a very important range to traverse through, right? So could we see supply side resistance? Absolutely. And where will we see it? Probably here. I think this is probably our best bet for a rejection, would be around 453, 454. So what we can expect if we rip through is that we'll come up. This is our critical pivot point, right? Let's make this even more pronounced because we want to make sure we don't forget it. This is our critical pivot point. We hit this and we break up. we're off to the races, and I think we test 450 plus. If we continue from there, very high likelihood that we enter price discovery mode again, and then we test for 500 bucks. I think that's realistically what's going to happen. However, let's look at bear scenario, because I think right now, given that number one, people did not receive the stimulus they received last year, right? That's going to dampen the economy. We still don't know exactly what they're going to do with rates. They talk about, we're going to slow down, we're tapering, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, they're just going to try to keep the money supply tightened up because they don't want inflation to run rampant and destroy us, right? You have the Chinese angling to get the yen incorporated into the oil trade. Also, very, very pivotal thing that we really need to pay attention to. And then beyond that, we just have the general fear of the markets, people being genuinely concerned for their well-being and thus keeping their money out of riskier assets, which people consider cash a safe asset and they consider stocks a risky asset. So we need to understand how the market's going to think, but also how the people are going to think, so that we can figure out what's the best thing for us. So basically, that's our long-term bull scenario. This is our long-term bear scenario. So we want to map both these out so that we can trade them effectively and make good money as the market does what it's going to do. We're never going to control the market. We're simply going to trade the trend and take advantage of everything that it gives us. So the bear scenario here is that we push up, we hit that 430, and we try bull trap, in my opinion, if that happens. Maybe consolidate for a little while, test here, get a little bit of a dead cat bounce, then here, and everyone's saying, oh, we're just consolidating, we're going to be fine. Then we go here, and so on and so on and so on. But inevitably, I think it comes back down to 380. Should we not be able to hold 383 being a pretty critical point there? So that's our bear scenario long term, at which point, here's how we'll play it. The bull scenario we talked about, those calls, we break above 430, we trade for 450, done and done, easy peasy. The bear scenario is a little more complicated because I think it will drag out and take a little more time. I think that it will consolidate and trade sideways for a while, which means you don't want to be sitting in options contracts getting destroyed by the implied volatility, or sorry, by the theta burn, and also, I guess, potentially losing on the implied volatility should people say, you know what, it's going down. We all know it. We're betting in that direction. Is options order flow starts tipping to downside, IV will go down because there's not as much up and down volatility expectation. So the bear scenario is very simple, straightforward, but I think it's going to take some time. We're going to test up and we're going to deal around this 430 mark, at which point I'm just going to be loading the boat if we can't sustain above 430 on strong volume. I want to see strong breakup for the bull scenario. In this bear scenario, I want to see weaker volume. I want to see it tapering, and I want to see a bull trap. If we see that, I'm going to be aiming for the 380 puts dated out 6 months at least. I need this to be a long-term play. I want to see 200-300%. I'm going to put a decent chunk of change in there, so it's going to be a more sizable position if we see this bear scenario. So once again, our bullish scenario, we're talking calls. We're looking at 450 strike. We're looking for at least 90 days expiration. I think it's going to rip. If it does break up, I think it's just going to rip and go quick. If we get the bear scenario to occur, I think it's going to be a little more delayed, a little more drawn out. We get stuck around that 430 mark. People are doing it's a really real will they won't they type situation. People are scared. They're thinking it's going up, or they want it to go up, but it's not going up. So that added buying pressure holds it up just a little bit longer. It's kind of like a house of cards until inevitably it comes down and hits 400, comes back up, gets rejected, and then we see 383, and then possibly even back down to the 350s. So again, if we're taking the 6 month out 380 puts, we are going to be rolling in the dough. If we go down to like 360, we're going to be making stupid money, filthy rich, and we're going to enjoy every second of it, even though the market's crashing. But here's the thing. My outlook on the market in the short term is definitely, I think bearish would be good. I think seeing some sell-off and seeing a more of a recession-driven market would be healthier for us in the long term. However, we're in a different era. It's a new market. The chances of seeing a bull run, I would argue, are equally possible. The chart setup right now is saying short-term bull, and it's saying let's test. Let's see what's going on. Let's test that 430. Let's see where the market's at. Let's see where buyers are at, and let's see if we can make this happen. So right now, I think really we just need to keep that in mind as we trade these next couple of weeks, that we really could go either way. We just need to trade it the right way, which means we need to be disciplined. We need to move slowly. We need to move carefully, and we need to take advantage of any opportunity that presents itself. So do I make myself clear? Is everybody following along so far? Just hit a yes in the chat. I just want to have a good idea that you guys are following along, understanding that this is making sense. All you got to do is type 3 letters YES in the chat. While we're waiting for that, if you haven't liked the video, please do. It greatly helps us, shows us your appreciation, shows us that we're on the right track and that we're giving you stuff that you want, which is what I care about at the end of the day. If we're not of value to you in your trading, then there's no point in doing this. My only mission in doing this is really to see you thrive and change and make some money. We got about 20 likes so far. We got almost 50 people on here. Let's bump that up. Get me above 20 likes. Come on, show some love. Just hit that thumbs up. Let's get to 30. Let's at least 30. I mean, 40 would be amazing. I'd love you forever, and I'll even do an additional stream this week. If we hit 40, you know what? There you go. An additional stream this week. I'll make the time, because that would be huge. I don't think we've ever had 40 on a video, so that'd be huge for us. I would absolutely love to see that. If you love what we're doing here and you want to support us, honest to God, just sharing this link and a little description on your personal Facebook, personal Twitter, personal Instagram, that stuff helps us more than you know. Word of mouth is everything. If you trust us, tell the world. We appreciate that more than anything. My goal is that what we do is so good that you can't not share it. Very much appreciate that. Market, so let's answer this question real quick. Take quick. If market, Alejandro asked, if market crashes and we're in puts, it would be more difficult to sell our put. Something like that happen where the buyers are not buying it. So if you're long puts, right? So like you own the contracts, you're betting on downside. I would argue that as the market's crashing, depending on your strike, like if you, for instance, if we're trading those, what we were just talking about, if we're trading those 380 puts, right, in our bear scenario where we come up here, we slowly dawdle and then we break down. In that scenario, we're trading puts that are about 3 months out at least, because once we're here, we're buying 6 months from right now expiration, but we're going to be 3 months out at this point, which means you have 3 months until those expire. You're going to be trading a strike that is very likely to hit. So I would argue that those options will have a ton of liquidity, and there would be really no challenge in selling them at market value, especially while it's tanking. That's exactly what you want to do, is sell those into that intense buying pressure, because then people are paying a little bit more, you're making a little more money, and you're exiting the position before it rebounds, and then you lose it. So I would not worry about that. So those are our two long-term scenarios. Let's talk short-term. And again, this will be recorded and posted later. It's going to be timestamped so that you guys can go through and understand everything we talked about. We got our long-term SPY bullish scenario. That's going to make us 200-300% return. We did our long-term SPY bearish scenario, which if that occurs, that's going to make us at least 150 to 200%, possibly more. The doctor, yeah, you're gonna have to spread that out, baby. And now we're going to talk about what can we do in the short term this week coming up. Specifically, we have that FOMC meeting coming up, so we're going to trade this very lightly. I do not want to see any heavy positions this week because we have too many intangibles. Again, that meeting is critical and is going to kind of, in my opinion, kind of give us our true direction. I think if those meeting minutes come back favorable and positive and we see strong numbers across the board, I think we're going to rip and test 430 no problem. So what I'm looking for at open is a strong open over 417 or so. I'd like to see it over 417 at the very least. We closed the day, if I'm not mistaken, at about 416 and change. So we want to see it open above 416. It's all right if it's down a little bit, because to be honest, pre-market trading is kind of nonsense and you can't really trust what's happening. We don't have after hours on. We're going to have to add that in there. There we go. So if you can see right here, that was our resistance line right here. It's trading above. So if we hold in above this right here, above this 416 mark, we get a strong open and we hold above that 416 mark. SPY likes to move up quick. But let's find a past example in which it moved up very quick so that we can look at how the price action tends to break down, which is typically how these go. Again, these are volatility bands. It goes from 379. We map these out to 415. Then it goes 380, 415. So we're trading in about the same ranges, right? So it's due for a little decompression. It's due for a little pullback. We saw a little bit here, and then we saw the strong move up. And here's the only thing that's telling me that we might see a rip tomorrow, is that this volume was actually decent. It was decently strong. If we look, bar average volume is right about there where you can see my cursor line, right? That's about average volume as of the last couple months. But then you look at these bars right here in May, these are stronger than average, which means that we have pretty substantial buying coming in, which means that people are I don't know if you can call it delusionally bullish, but they're there and they want to see the market rip. And to be honest, they're betting to the bull side here. So again, we sold off a little bit when we got this little jaunt down here to about 380, we traded that very well, but this is our support line. It's been picked back up. Okay, the reason you want to keep these on your chart is because sometimes you'll lose that support, but then the chart will come back and you'll pick it back up, and that's exactly what happened here. It functioned as resistance for a little while, came back up, picked back up as support. So that's going to be our new kind of idle line that we follow, and this is our point of confluence right here at about 430. That's why I think we're heading there. If you look at this move, this is the most similar move in my opinion to what's happening now. That was from the move from June, July into August. Now what happened? SPY came down and tested the low as 357, right? That was like a new low at that time. But what we're focused on is this right here. When it came down to about 386, that's arguably similar to what we saw right here. Let's look at it from this point to here, this point to here, right? Let's pretend it's going to map that out. So from 386, it went to 426 and change. We came down to 383. Now, anticipating that we could see 425, I don't think that's crazy. So in the short term, what I'm looking at here is I would say 421 is like the safe bet. 420 even safer if you want to really hold it tight. If you want to add a little more risk, I'd say you could even go 423. That'll hit. So if we get a strong open over 416 and we're looking at calls, I would say looking at the 420 call, I think it's very likely to hit, and we're likely to test just above that resistance long enough that you sell the second it hits above that resistance, because that's going to be your highest price valuation to get rid of those. Do not do anything less than 3 weeks of expiration, because those will absolutely get destroyed on the way down. You do not want to get caught with your pants down, my friends. You do not. So what I think is going to happen here is if we can break up and hold above 416 and change 417, we are going to probably see 420 at least, more likely 422. So if we're trading 3-4 weeks out, 422 calls, those should appreciate substantially. We are going to ride them up. We're going to go in and draw this line just so you guys can see exactly what we need to do here to execute this the right way. If we get a strong open and we push right up to that 423, 424, basically what we're going to do is we're just going to sell on this ride up, because you're going to see a strong push up, I think, just like you saw the other day. If we look at this past move here, we got a gap up to 412, and then it moved up. Quick move right off this support. Look at this day right here. I think it was the 12th. We touched down like 416 and change. Boom, finished the day 421. That's one day you're going to make at least 30-40% on that trade. Take advantage. Make some money. I don't want you to buy anything from me. I just want you to make some money, and then come let me know how you did. Give us a share on social media if you'd like. That'd be very kind of you. Make some money for yourselves. That's what makes this worth it to me. So if we get that strong open, we're looking at those 420, 421 calls, depending on how much risk you want to take. I would give them at least 3 to 4 weeks expiration. Again, we saw a similar move here, but it took a little longer. That way, if we need to swing it, if we see a very strong move and then we can hedge and swing, we can do that. You don't want to be pigeonholed with those 1 week out expiration contracts that you cannot hold overnight, because you're going to get destroyed on theta. That time decay is a real thing. You hold them overnight, they become immediately less valuable. Why would you want that? You don't want that, so don't do that. So that's scenario number one. I think that's our bullish scenario. I think that's got a high statistical probability of happening given the last couple of days of price action. Now, our bear scenario. Now, this is a tough one, because I don't really like this. I don't really feel as confident in this to take a trade, other than maybe we see a soft open. This is as good as I can really get it. Is like if we see kind of a soft, mediocre open in the pre-market, and then we get a soft open and a dip down. I think if we get a strong move, we're going to see a little dip first. We're going to see the dip and rip right at open, right? So SPY comes down just a touch, and then booms. It just booms. That's exactly what happened here. If we go a little, I'm sure we could see it. SPY open, kind of got that little dip down to 406, and then boomed. It boomed. Kind of did the same thing here. Came down, pre-market, gap down, right? Opened lower than it closed, and then it boomed. So I think if we're following that trend pattern here, I think that we see, either it's just gaps up and it's gone, or we see kind of a weak open and it booms. And if that's the case, those calls are going to be on my radar for that dip. Now, should we break below this 416 and not close above? So you're going to be looking at the 15-minute chart. If you get a 15-minute candle that's closing below this line, that's going to be my cut point to just get the hell out of there, because that trade is probably going to go bad. Again, no smaller than the 15-minute chart. If you get that candle that dips down, we're talking about buying on a dip and rip. What we'd like to see is a candle flush down, and then we'd like to see it push back up, leaving just the wick below the line, right? Which basically tells us, hey, the price went there, but buyers aren't leaving it there. If that 15-minute candle closes below that line, those calls are, I would say, kaputs. It's not going to work. I wouldn't take that risk. It's not worth it. In the bear scenario, if we do get that close below that line, I am going to be looking at right here 411 puts. Again, 3 to 4 weeks expiration. Do not play around. Do not take added risk you don't need to. Trade smart, trade safe. You can make a 30, 40, 50% depending on quickly this moves. Easy money in one day. So for example, you're putting $1,000 in that one trade. Boom, you just made $300 for 2 hours of your time, 3 hours of your time max. So do this smart, people. If we get that dip and rip, right, back to our bull scenario, I think that, 415.60, 416, right where it touched down in after hours, which also happens to be the top of this little range right here that we saw on the 28th, which also coincides with the support we found back here in after hours back on the 18th. So again, if this dips down a little, it's going to come down maybe about 415.50. That's the buy opportunity on calls, as long as those candles don't close below this line. Ideally, we're just going to see a sharp move down. Buyers will scoop it back up. You'll be in the play, and then it rips. If it doesn't, then we are looking at the 410 puts. Those will pay handsomely, just so much as the calls will. Jump into those. If that candle closes below that line and cannot hold above 416, those 410 puts will be money. And if it continues down below 414 or so, I would argue that you could probably keep those puts overnight. But I would always take profit on at least 75% of the position, because you do not want to trade this sloppily. You want to make money on this. I'm giving you literally the secret formula to, like, here's some free money, take advantage. So do it. So that's the SPY. Those are our trades. I think that's our we went through just to recap, our long-term bear, our long-term bull, went through both scenarios. We went through our short-term bear and our short-term bull, both scenarios. So now you know exactly how to trade tomorrow, and you know exactly the plan of how we're going to trade it over the next couple of months to maximize our profit and take advantage of what we got in front of us. Quick pause. Is that clear? Does everybody understand? I need some comments in the chat. Give me some context. If you have questions, now is the time. Drop them in the chat. But if you wouldn't mind, just feedback. Yes, no, I understand. This is great. This is terrible. I hate you. I can't believe you're streaming. Where's Pookie? I can't stand you. Like anything like that, you just got to tell me. I just need a yes or a no. Are you following along? Does this make sense? And is it helping you? Oh my God, we're at 38 likes. I love you guys. Just 2 more. We get to 40. You make my day. Thank you. I appreciate you guys very much for hustling up those likes for me. YouTube doesn't like me very much. They don't show my stream to that many people. Must be because we dated for a while. It didn't end well. Me and the tube. Yes, yes, yes. Yes, yes, yes. Josh says yes. Patman. Why is the 430 price point now the earlier high, ultra high? Can you elaborate a little bit, Patman? I don't understand exactly what you're asking here, buddy. I want to answer your question, but I don't really understand what's being asked. This is a great question. So the doctor, that's exactly what I was thinking, because I like this right here. Call it 414, just to keep it easy. You've got top of range here, so it functioned as resistance from the 17, 18, 19. And you've got it as support touch right here. So the reason I said that I'm going to look at those 410 puts if we can't sustain that is because we'll have a $2 move down to there. And I think the fear and panic will come in the market so heavily that 30% will be easy on those. However, I do think you're right, and I do think that's opportunity, but that to me on the call side is just it's too risky for my blood to put out there and tell everybody, hey, yeah, it's fine, let's do it. Because if we don't hold that, then we're seeing 412 easy. So the reason I like call entry up here, even though they'll be priced higher, right, is because we can cut the risk immediately and not get beat to death. If we waited until we got 414 bounce, especially on like an initial impulse in the open, there's not that much time or room. There's no net under there. So like if that falls through, money flows into puts, money flows out in short interest, and this thing moves a hell of a lot quicker. which means people will get roasted on the downside if they're stuck in those positions. That's the only reason why I didn't say that. Justin Damp, why don't you plug the Discord, my friend? You plug it for me, man. I'll put it in there. So yeah, if you're not in the Discord, you definitely should join. I really don't like the shameless promo, but we trade in there every day. Free trading education, tons of alerts, day in, day out options, stocks, crypto, everything you could ever want. It's there. It's waiting for you, and a community of like 30 something thousand people that are just trading and trying to change their life and make some money. So if you ever have a question about any of that, it's all there and available, and I really think you should join. It's 100% free. Don't miss out. There you go. There's the link right there. Discord.gg/pennyboys with an I, baby. So the reason that we don't want to go closer to the share price for strike is because you won't get that much movement on the contract. You won't make as much, right? Because it's a much safer option. We want to capitalize as it goes from not in the money to in the money. That's the biggest. It's the biggest bump up. That's a great question though. Definitely check out the free options trading education stuff we have in there, my friend Steven Scanlon. There's tons of just initial, like, what are the Greeks? That's what you need to understand with options. What are the Greeks? What's implied volatility? How do I understand what options are really doing, and how do I trade them? We talk about how to use options to hedge your stock portfolio. Also very informative, educational, and worth knowing, because that's basically like collecting passive income, like you're renting out a property. I would definitely dive into that. It's all available. The website's at the bottom of the screen here, but you can also just go to the Discord if you're not in there. Discord.gg/pennyboys with an I. So that's the SPY, and I think that's kind of our recession-proof plan. Either way, we're winning handsomely on those trades. That's why I want to do the short-term and the long-term stuff, so you guys had a good indication of exactly what to do in the short and long term. Now you've got a plan for literally any outcome in any scenario. You could not be more prepared. We have everything dialed in. We have exactly what's going to happen. We have exactly what's oh, what a guy. I appreciate you, my friend. And I love that. You know I love the F. Damn. Appreciate you, my friend. I'm glad you're here, brother. So yeah, if you guys want to share it out, share it out. All we want to do is help people get this, because this is a secret that the wealthy have been hoarding for a century, and now it's available to everyone courtesy of the internet. So let's get it out there. Let's teach people how to do this. It's a free cash machine in your living room. There's no reason not to have this installed in your living room. Boom. All it takes is a couple hours a week. Boom, done. You learned a skill that makes you a couple hundred to a couple thousand every week with a couple hours of your time. Why wouldn't you do that? If you went to trade school, you understand what that means. You went to trade school, you went from making 15 bucks, now you're making 50 bucks an hour. Why wouldn't you do the same thing? Except here's the beauty. You could do it in your off time. You could even have it working for you while you're at work. So for example, we talked about selling puts against your stocks that you're holding, right? You don't do anything. You execute the order one time. So if you sell calls, you have a bunch of shares of Apple and you're like, I'm never selling them. And you sell $200 calls that expire next week, right? Because it's not going to hit 200 by next week. Not likely. Someone buys those from you, right? You're basically giving them the opportunity to buy your shares at 200 bucks. Let's say it does hit 200 bucks. You just sold all your shares for 200 bucks. So who cares? And you got paid to do it, not only in them buying your shares, but also they bought the options contract from you. Now let's imagine the other scenario. It doesn't hit 200 bucks, the strike price. You keep their money and your shares. You win. Why wouldn't you do that? Pat Man, Klondike, baby. Also, if any of you are new, just type new in the chat. We're going to be giving away a free membership here shortly before we sign off. So definitely type new in the chat if you are new, because why wouldn't you want some free stuff? So that's a SPY. Couple of trades that we've been following along that I want to make sure I cover up on, or cover for you guys, that we've been talking about for quite a while. We've got the PLTR trade. This is one of my personal favorites. We have a huge, I'm hoping, accumulation zone forming here again. If you look back into past price action, we do have a new low, which is not good. But if you zoom this out, you can see that we are really, really trying to stay above this midline here at 775. As I talked about on those leap options, we want to see it above 760. I updated the alert in the Discord. Make sure you follow that very, very, very closely. Josh Johnson, so sell calls. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, dude. I would absolutely do that. I would absolutely do that. It's free money. Cash secured puts are the dopest dope I've ever smoked. I hear that, man. That's fantastic as well. You could do it with cash, but I think covered calls is very easy to understand and do. Brick Johnson, what's up, baby? New. I love that. So, oh, Josh Johnson and Brick Johnson. We got Brick and Josh, kind of like Drake and Josh, but one of them's named Brick. So, this PLTR trade, we were looking at those leaps. We want to keep a close eye on this chart because we have to stay above that 750, 760 mark. If we continue to see buyers come in at 750, I would not feel concerned. Again, this is a good company from everything that they've released. There's nothing, in my opinion, incredibly alarming about them at all. Everything points to long-term growth. They're just getting beat down due to recession. I really think that there's a ton of opportunity here. Again, remember this IPO'd up to 45 plus, and then it tanked. They have a strong cash reserve, great executive board, government contracts out the ass. There's no reason that this is trading for $7-8. It just doesn't make sense. We need to see it break above 1030 for this to truly run, but we talked about this many times. We have a huge opportunity to go back up into the $20 range. That's why we're trading those calls that are about a year out. We want to make sure we have the expiration on time on those because we need that to move. We need that to move. So this is a good question, my friend. Bebnet, what's up, baby? We've actually adjusted our strategy, and you guys are going to start to see some of it. You're going to poop yourself. You're going to love it so much. So basically, every week, me and the other analysts get together. Everyone has to come up with their own independent market thesis, right? So they have to determine, I'm looking at this general market. Here's the general direction I think it's going to go. They then take that. They write out their whole philosophy on why they think that. All the research for you, right? Everything you need to know. Financial report. They spend hours diving into all the different metrics that make up what the market is. Then they pick two stocks that they're going to focus on that I think we'll see the most movement. So if they say, for example, tech is going bearish, right? And they choose Tesla and something else. And we are looking at these puts on Tesla. We're looking at short equity at this price, buyback at this price. We're looking at puts down to this price or covered, whatever you're going to do. Cash secured puts. I mean, you can do that on the upside. Sell, buy puts on the downside. Sell calls on the downside. Buy calls to the upside. So anyway, after we get that thesis, right? All of us get together and kind of we either rip into or support the other person's thesis. So like if Amy has a thesis and we're like, oh my God, that makes so much sense. It helps us in our trading. And then I go through mine and then they're like, hey, that's terrible. That's so stupid. Why'd you do that? And then I come up with a different one. My point is we're breaking down macro markets now. We're going to give you a detailed report of exactly what we think is going on in that overall market. And then we're going to give you the independent plays that can help you take advantage of that market and advantage of that move so that you guys understand across the board, not just one stock, two stocks, three stocks, you'll understand the market as a whole, which then improves your life drastically because it'll improve your trading drastically. And it'll give you the insight and the information as to why the trades make sense because you'll understand fully why the market is happening the way it is because of the research we've done. So basically, we're just getting way deeper, but we're breaking it down in a way that's very easy to understand rather than like a 30-page complicated financial report. And so in that, to answer Bebnet's question, we're breaking that down so that basically any account can trade it. That's the whole point here is we just need good trades. It's not small account versus big account. There's some trades that a small account can't do, right? But that's the beauty of spreads. Typically, in most cases with options, you can create a spread with even a very expensive stock that breaks the price down to under 200 bucks. So in theory, everything could be a small account play, right? The idea here is that we're just giving out the best quality trades that make the most sense with the best insight on that direction. And from there, we'll break down, okay, here's a spread that could work in a small account because it's only $200 to take the play, right? Or if you want to go, naked calls for a while as we push up and then add your short to hedge, like you could do that, but it's more expensive. So to answer your question, focusing, yeah, exactly. Swing setups specifically. I want more swing trades. I crave them. I need them. I desire them. The focus is on longer term trend trades that make sense, that have very focused and managed risk that's defined before we even get into the trade. So everybody knows exactly what they're doing. So that's that. So looking at this PLTR trade again, long-term hold, we're looking to continue we're looking to see continuation as long as we stay above 760, 750, give or take. We want to see buyers come back in strong here like they did back in February. Came in very strong, tons of volume. I think this is going to continue to be an accumulation zone, hopefully for institutions and other large scale buyers like banks that want to get equity in the company. If it does break down, then we're going to have to close the position at a loss and reevaluate. So please, please, please set a stop and watch this closely. Then our other one that we've been watching very closely, also in kind of tech financial, is PayPal. It is actually seeing a little retracement back to the upside after seeing long-term downside and then like a little bit of consolidation. Remember, we bought in here at 69. We still haven't even come back down to our entry from this trade, and we entered right here back in December. It was a great trade, went up to 88 bucks, came back down. Now it's consolidating. I'm not going to go deep into any options or any big trades with PayPal until we are clear and we are clearly trading above 80 bucks. And then I'll start to look at long-term leaps when we get a little bit closer to this right here. I want to see us basically above 90, at which point there's way more price fluctuation, volatility, and upside. We're staying very tight in this range, guys, which means there's not going to be as much movement on the stock. If there's not that much movement on the stock, that means that we're not going to get that much appreciation on the options. So that's PayPal. And then there is, oh, that's what I wanted to look at. I got to go in trading view for a second. That unbelievable, the PEPE Coin, PEPE. I think that's so interesting. So I was talking to Chris over at Wall Street Bets, and he's telling me about it. I mean, they made a stupid amount of money on this thing. It's absolutely ripping. So we want to go to, would that be USDT, I guess. This thing has been unbelievable, just rip city. So if you go in this 1 hour, so like understand like how much appreciation this is. Like literally that guy turned I think it was like 3 grand into 3 million because this thing was up, you know, hundreds and 1,000%, I guess at least. This thing is looking pretty strong. I mean, realistically, it's in price discovery mode, so there's no telling how high it'll go, but it does have a new high. So it looks like it's like a 608. Then it came down, found support, was at 606. I think honestly it's going to double top, sell off, and come back down to about here because again, this thing has not found its bottom. It doesn't know where to go from here. There is no price discovery other than what we're seeing right now. And so as a result, I think this is going to be very difficult for people to map this trade out without taking a ton of risk. So I don't like it right here, to be completely honest with you, and I wouldn't buy it now. I know a lot of people have asked me. I think you missed the boat. If you do get another opportunity, like I said, I think it's going to be down here on like I don't even know how to say this, right? It's like so 0.54, 6054. Or it even comes down to retest the top of this range where it tested as a high before. So I think you should be very careful with this. If you're buying anywhere in here, unless something significant is looming that's going to boom this thing even further. Like I guess if it does take on like meme stock quality and just keeps going, it can. But as of right now, I'd say that the thing is that's a ticking time bomb that's going to bankrupt people, as most of these tend to. Very similar to Doge, right? Boom, comes back down. Nope, Doge did catch trend, right? And then kept up for a while, and now it's just hanging into oblivion, getting destroyed. So I would be very careful with that stuff, guys. Like you really don't want to get caught in the fire of those trades. I don't want to see any of you get beat like that and completely destroy your portfolio. Doge actually is pretty interesting if it's bottoming out. That could be actually a pretty interesting trade should this be the bottom. So that's one to keep your eye on, but we're not even going to go into that right now because Doge is something else. I mean, the last time we traded it, I believe I was up 31,000% at a certain point. I turned like 150 bucks, like a joke, into $30,000. This is like is insanity. It was absolute madness. That was one of my favorite, most fun trades. And as it hit 77 cents or whatever, at 73 cents, I called my exit. It's live on YouTube. If you'd like to watch it, just go to the channel. You can see it. 73 cents. I said, I'm out. I'm done. This thing's over. And that was, if you look at the chart, that was like right here. And if you look since then, nothingness. So I like to think that I've taken the time to really understand these and how to trade them. So if you want to take that for what it is, take it for what it is. I just don't want to see you guys get burnt and destroyed on these trades just because you see it all over social media. So we're going to leave that. And then I wanted to look at this small cap boy here. That I think is a pretty interesting chart. Oh, Fubo popped on the scanner. So did that Seco. Well, I don't know anything about it. It's a holding company, so I don't want anything to do with it. Fate Therapeutics on there again. We talked about that one a few times. What the hell's Lumen Technologies? That one could be interesting. As a bottom bounce crossover, let's get some. Oh, that could be nice. That could be a nice little range trade back up. So this one, I would say, this one could be pretty fun if it does get a rebound. If it does rebound, it's going to be right here, and if it does rebound, I think maybe we go a little lower. Like you want to set your stop below whatever that is, like 165, because if we go below 165, we're probably going to 157. I don't know. You could take a little more risk, put it below 158, and if it holds up, then you're going to see it move to $2, $2 plus, which means you're going to be risking 15 cents to make 30 plus. So 2 to 1. Or 1 to 2 risk to reward, which I would say is as good as it gets. So that could be a very interesting swing trade. I don't know anything about the company though. It's no commentary on the fundamentals. I'm just saying it popped on the swing scanner, which that thing absolutely crushes. And the chart looks interesting enough that you could set a nice order in where you know your stop loss, you know your take profit, you make your money, and you get out. Could be very interesting. And last but not least, we're going to go through NVDA, because this thing came down and sold off, but then it said, no, I want more. I'm still going to go. I'm going higher. And now it is consolidated into a nice little setup here that could continue. I'd like to see, honestly, I'd like to see it come down a little bit. I'd like to see a little sell off. I want to see health here because I have a lot of this in my account. As much as I love seeing the account value go up, I want to make sure that this is trading the right way. Once we get stable above 264, though, I think we're gonna go back up and test 300. This is gonna be a great long trade. I'm looking at a few options trades for this. It has held this trend line right here like psychotically well. It really freaks me out. We're trading slightly below it now because it's consolidating, but should it have held appropriately, right? I think we could realistically expect that to hold. I think that's going to end up being our trend because that was a pretty strong support bounce on strong volume coming off of the low at 108. I think if we consolidate here, we hit an inflection point, and then we could boom back up to 300 plus. I think that could be a phenomenal trade. So keep a close eye on that one. Again, we've crushed that options trade. It's up like 700% at this point. So don't piss it away. Take profit, make your money, and go home. But yeah, we're gonna keep it short and sweet this week because I can hear my kids in there just screaming and yelling, and my daughter's banging on the door saying "Daddy." So I feel like a terrible delinquent father being in here, even though I love you. So I love you. Stay blessed.